Hello, students. Welcome to your first English class. I hope all are safe and well, and let us keep in mind that this too shall pass. So, moving on to our class, we're going to see a general introduction to literature because we will be dealing with poems and prose for a few days. I believe that in order to familiarize yourself with the lesson, we must at first learn how to read and understand them. So, my very first question of the class is, what is literature and why should we study them? The simplest definition for what is literature will be books and writings published on a particular subject. Any written form of word, anything which is written on a sheet of paper, or anything which is written and published, it becomes your literature. Your newspapers, your science textbooks, your mathematics textbooks, your English stories, short stories, novels, novellas, anything and everything which is written becomes literature. So, why should we study them? We study them because it shows us the power of written words. It helps us to understand the social situation, the history, and also it helps us to understand our own emotions. It also takes us on an imaginary trip filled with wonder and excitement. And it also makes us feel more empathetic towards a character which we encounter while reading or encounter in your real life. What do you mean by feeling empathetic towards others? Empathy means the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. So, whenever you're feeling empathetic towards anybody, it means that you are placing yourself in their shoes, in their circumstance, and you are viewing their problem from their perspective. You are being empathetic towards them. You feel them completely. That is what being empathetic means. And also, reading literature also helps you in other ways. It helps you to read, write, and speak in a very effective way. And so, how to study literature? We saw what is literature, we saw why we should study them, and now we are going to see how to study literature. There are so many ways to approach literature, but as of now, we'll start by reading the text. So, what is a text? A text is something which is given to you for learning, for understanding, and for analyzing. Why do we call our readers as textbooks? Maths textbook, your English textbook. Why do we call that as textbook? We call it as textbook because it has content in it for us to read and understand. Anything which is given to you for understanding, anything which is given to you for analyzing purpose in itself becomes a text. A text can be your poem, a short story, or it can even be your paintings and your statues. Sometimes your sculptures also become text because people go and analyze them. They go and find out why that particular sculptor has sculpted this statue in such a way. So anything which is given to you for understanding and for analyzing purpose becomes your text. So reading the text is the first step for studying your literature properly. You should read whatever is given to you because while reading it will give you clarity as on what that particular text is about. If you take Jungle Book, when you read it, you know that it is a story about a man cub raised by animals. You will know the challenges faced by him and how he grew up in a jungle. So you will have a thorough understanding of what that story is about. That is why you have to read the story or the poem given to you first. The next step is placing the text in context. So what do you mean by placing the text in context? What do you mean by context basically? Your context is nothing but the circumstance under which a particular poem or a short story or whatever is written. It is basically the why in a text. Why did the poet write in such a way? Why did the poet address this particular social custom that is prevalent in that area? Or what is the poet trying to tell us through this poem? It is the basic why in a text, and context, placing a particular text in the context will help us to understand it deeply, know more about the poem, and add meaning and insight to the poem. It helps us to achieve more knowledge about the circumstances in which the people lived. The people lived while the poet was writing the poem. That is called placing the text in context. It is nothing but the circumstance under which the author or poet writes his or her novel or short story or poem, which has a significant impact in his work, in his literary work. Okay, so we will be looking at 3 types of contexts here in a lesson. In a while, before going into the lesson, we will just look at 3 types of contexts. What are they? They are biographical context, your historical context, and your social context. Your biographical context is pretty simply. If a poem or prose or short story is influenced based on the author's life, or if it has reference to the author's life, we can place that particular poem or prose or short stories under biographical context. We can take that as under biographical context because it is connected explicitly to the author's life and interesting events which happened in his or her life. For example, take your autobiographies and biographies. They all have a heavy biographical context to them. These works are influenced heavily by the author's life itself. So the next context which we'll be looking into is historical context. Historical context is nothing but it means seeing the text in the light of historical situation that existed while writing it, or the historical background that the story or the poem has. For example, take the poem or famous song Vande Mataram. It is our national song. So when was it written? It was written during 1870s and people started to sing it during the freedom struggle. During the early years of freedom struggle, people used to chant it on the streets to express their unity and to overcome the British rule. We know the struggles behind our nation's freedom, and the patriotic songs, dramas and stories united the people to fight against the Britishers. So this is called placing the text in their social or historical, their historical context. So Vande Mataram has a heavy historical context behind it. Lastly, we'll see the societal context. Societal context or social context. How the poem or story brings out social issues like child labor or racism or untouchability through its work is called as social context. For example, Charles Dickens wrote many poems about child laborers in a collection of poems that dealt with chimney sweepers. So, those set of poems have a very heavy social background to it. Now, let us see literary movements. A literary movement happens when a single writer or groups of writers start writing poems or stories with similar themes or in a certain style, and it becomes very popular among other writers and publics as well. And they note these poems or stories to have similarities in the concepts, in the themes which they deal, or in the style, the writing style which is adopted by these writers. It is actually something bit more like trend setting videos. We used to see that in our social media, how people set trends, certain trends. Likewise, in literature, we call it as our literary movements. Certain ideas which sets the trend or the mood of the entire period for 40 years or 10 years, people will elevate that particular idea and they will talk about it constantly, and they will write about such ideas constantly in their works. So it sets a trend which is popular for a certain period of time, say for 10 years or 40 years, and they will also name it. I'll give you an example. A literary movement mostly happens when writers observe changes in the society. For example, when the peasants of France rebelled against the French leaders, it became as the French Revolution. And along with it, writers and poets started writing poems and stories with popular themes like freedom, fraternity, going back to nature, simplicity, common the effects, the emotions of common man, etc. So people like to read these stories and poems that is about freedom, simplicity, going back to nature, etc. so much that it influenced an entire literary movement. It influenced an entire set of writers to write in such a way, which is called as Romanticism. Romanticism actually became very popular from 1770 onwards, and the popularity lasted until 1890. During this stretch of time period, these writers to write poems and short stories which had the themes of nature, man being very simple, simplistic outlook of life, and freedom. So Romanticism, it became popular from 1770 till 1890. And in very, very simple terms, what does Romanticism as an art movement it meant is, I quote, man's return to nature and everything that is simple, unquote. So whatever this particular group of people wrote about reflected mainly on man's return to nature and everything that is simple. So these literary movements will let us know about the thinking, the lifestyle, and values embraced by people who lived during that particular period. We will look into this topic in an elaborate way when we discuss your poems and your short stories. We look into this matter and discuss it elaborately. Okay, so moving on to your lesson. So we're all now stuck inside our house without being able to go out, to go to parks, to tourist places, etc. Right? It is a boring time for the entire world. So how would you like a nice vacation? And if offered a vacation on a beautiful island where we can run and enjoy the nature around us, we most probably will take it, right? So that is what W.B. Yeats does in his poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. He craves for a beautiful, carefree life in a small isle called Innisfree. And why does he crave that? Why would he leave a nice city life to go live in a lonely island? Let us see why. I'll just read you the poem and we'll discuss later. The Lake Isle of Innisfree. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loved glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the crickets sing, there midnight's a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of linnets' wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. Written by William Butler Yeats.